The sound wasn't a ding-dong. It was a brrring. A real, old-school, thumb-on-the-button, I'm-holding-a-subpoena kind of doorbell ring. I froze, my coffee mug halfway to my mouth. It was 9:04 a.m. on a Saturday. There are only a few acceptable reasons for a 9:04 a.m. Saturday doorbell ring. A Girl Scout is here to deliver my order of Thin Mints. I've won the Publishers Clearinghouse, and Ed McMahon has risen from the grave to deliver the check. My house is on fire, and the person at the door is a firefighter who is also, coincidentally, a Girl Scout with my Thin Mints. This was not a Thin Mint ring. This was a ring that meant business. "Are you going to get that?" my wife Sarah called from the kitchen. "I'm thinking about it," I muttered, setting my mug down. The coffee inside was a perfect dark roast. It was a Saturday special blend I'd been looking forward to since Wednesday. This ring was ruining the vibe. I shuffled to the door in my slippers, a pair of worn-out moccasins that had seen better decades. I pulled open the door, squinting into the morning light. It was Brenda, my next-door neighbor. Brenda. Of course, it was Brenda. She wasn't holding cookies or a giant check. She was holding a clipboard, a tape measure, and a smartphone that she was holding up at a weird angle, as if trying to find a signal from God. "Mark," she said, not as a greeting, but as an accusation. "Brenda," I replied, pulling my robe a little tighter. "What's up? Everything okay? Your lawn looks green?" Brenda is one of those neighbors, the kind who measures her blades of grass with a ruler and has, on at least 2 occasions, called the non-emergency police line because a suspicious-looking Amazon driver loitered on her porch for an unseemly duration while trying to get her to sign for a package. She ignored my pleasantry. "No, Mark, everything is not okay. I've been tracking it for 6 weeks." I blinked. "Tracking what? The Amazon guy?" "Your house," she said, tapping her phone screen, which appeared to be displaying some kind of solar chart. "Mark, your house, your roofline, specifically, is casting a shadow." I just stared at her. I waited for the punchline. Maybe this was an elaborate gotcha prank. Maybe she'd finally snapped, and this was the preamble to her running at me with a garden gnome. "A shadow," I repeated slowly. "My house, which is an opaque, 3-dimensional object, is casting a shadow. When the sun... an opaque, 3-dimensional... wait, no. A gaseous ball of... anyway. Yes. That's how physics works, Brenda. It's called the afternoon." She was not amused. She clicked her pen. "Don't be facetious. This isn't a normal shadow. This is an aggressive shadow. I've done the math." She consulted her clipboard. "Every day from 2:04 p.m. to precisely 4:18 p.m., your southwest roof peak completely obliterates the sunlight on my prize-winning petunias." I looked over, her shoulder. Her prize-winning petunias were a sad-looking strip of pink and purple flowers in a bed next to her driveway. They looked fine. A little droopy, maybe. But who wasn't? 2 hours and 14 minutes, Mark, she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "They're suffering. They need full sun. Your house is denying them their botanical rights." I honestly had no idea how to respond. "Brenda, my house was here when you bought your place. My house was here when my parents bought this place. The roofline hasn't, evolved. It's a very stable roofline." "Which is the problem," she snapped. "But don't worry, I'm not here to just complain. I'm a solutions-oriented person. Oh, good, I thought. Solutions. I see two viable options. She held up 2 fingers. 1. You can lower your roofline. A chalet-style pitch would be much more community-friendly and would significantly reduce the shadow print. I have the number of a good architect. My jaw must have been somewhere near my knees. Lower my roof. Or, she continued, and this is really the compromise, you could move the entire house. Move the house? Yes, just back about 15 feet. According to my calculations, that would clear the petunia bed entirely, year-round. She smiled. A thin, tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. She actually, truly, 100% expected me to consider this. I was speechless. I looked for a camera. I looked for Ashton Kutcher. Nothing. Just Brenda and her terrible, terrible clipboard. Brenda, I said, trying to find a gentle way to tell her she was completely barking at the moon insane. I am not going to be moving my house or de-roofing it. Her face hardened. The brief, terrifying flicker of a smile vanished. I see. So you're refusing to be a cooperative member of this community. I'm refusing to alter the fundamental structure of my home to appease your flowers. They are prize-winning, she shrieked, her voice cracking. What prize? I yelled back. The most obsessively coddled perennials on the block award? Brenda, it's a shadow. Get a plant that likes partial shade. This was, apparently, the wrong thing to say. This is a direct violation of my right to full sun and my quiet enjoyment of my property, she said, her voice now dangerously calm. I expect you to handle this. I'll be checking back on Monday for your decision. She didn't wait for a reply. She just pivoted on her New Balance sneakers and marched back across her perfectly edged lawn, her clipboard held high. I closed the door. The click of the deadbolt sounded unnervingly final. The house was silent, save for the hum of the fridge. I stood there for a full minute, just processing. So? Sarah called from the kitchen. Was it the Girl Scouts? I walked, zombie-like, into the kitchen and poured my now lukewarm coffee directly into the sink. I turned to my wife. Sarah, I said, my voice dead, serious. We have to move the house. She burst out laughing. What? What did Brenda want? I relayed the conversation, verbatim, every word about the roofline, the petunias, the 2:04 p.m. shadow print. When I finished, she wasn't laughing anymore. She was just staring. She's not well, right? Sarah whispered. Like that's a call someone level of crazy. She's serious, Sarah. 100%. She's coming back Monday for my decision. I sat down at the table. She wants a solution. You told her to get lost, I hope. Oh, I did. In so many words, but she's not going to let this go. You know what she's like. This will be an HOA complaint, then a city complaint, then she'll probably try to sue the Sun. I stared out the window, at the spot where Brenda had stood. The sheer, unmitigated audacity. The entitlement. The clipboard. She complained about a shadow, I said, a slow, dangerous smile spreading across my face. It was an involuntary expression, one that usually only appeared when I had a really good idea for a fantasy football trade. Mark, Sarah said, her voice wary. What's that look? That's your I'm about to buy a drone we don't need look. She was very specific, Sarah. What? Her complaint. It wasn't the shadow. It was not enough sun. She wants more sun. Mark, what are you talking about? I stood up and walked to my laptop. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew I'd find it. "I'm talking," I said, as I opened a new browser tab, "about being a good neighbor. I'm talking about solving her problem. If Brenda wants more sun, then by God, I think I should give her more sun." Sarah just sighed and poured herself a cup of coffee. "Oh, Lord, here we go." My Saturday was no longer about coffee, relaxing, or enjoying the quiet hum of our suburban existence. It was now a research day. My laptop screen lit up, a blank Google search bar staring back at me, pulsing like a beacon of infinite petty possibilities. Sarah, to her credit, knew when to let a bad idea ferment. She put on her headphones, grabbed a book, and left me to my process. I started, for the sake of comedy, by actually looking up Brenda's solutions. Search 1. Cost to lower a roofline. The results were staggering. I found forums of architects and contractors discussing this as if it were a real thing. "You're not lowering a roof," one very angry-sounding user named RoofGod88 typed. "You're demolishing and rebuilding a smaller, inferior roof. You're talking new trusses, new supports, compromising the entire structural integrity. Estimated cost? $150,000. And your house will look like a sad, squashed mushroom." I chuckled. "Honey," I yelled, "Brenda's easy fix is only $150,000. "That's nice, dear," Sarah yelled back, not looking up. Part 2. Cost to move a house 15 feet. This one was even better. I found a company in Nebraska that specialized in it. Their website featured a terrifying time-lapse video of a 3-story Victorian home slowly rolling down a street on a set of giant-sized roller skates. The process involved hydraulic lifts, steel I-beams, a new foundation, and a level of stress that I could feel just by watching the video. The ballpark estimate on their FAQ page? If you have to ask, you can't afford it. But other sites chimed in, $300,000 to $500,000, assuming you don't, snap the house in half. I closed those tabs. My due diligence on Brenda's suggestions was complete. They were, as suspected, certifiably insane. Now, for my solution. My search history evolved. How to get more sun on a lawn. The results were all about trimming trees. Useless. How to annoy neighbor legally. A lot of forums. A lot of bad ideas. Fences. Planting trees. A loud wind chime strategy. All too small. Reflect sunlight neighbor's yard. Is it illegal to shine a mirror at neighbor's house? This was getting interesting. The consensus on the illegality front was fuzzy. Most of the forum posts were about people trying to stop glare, not create it. "My neighbor's new windows are blinding me. My neighbor's metal roof is a nuisance." A nuisance. I loved that word. It was so subjective. Was a shadow a nuisance? Brenda seemed to think so. What about anti-shadow? Then I found it. The magic word. Heliostat. I clicked. My world changed. A heliostat, according to Wikipedia, is a device that includes a mirror, usually a plane mirror, which turns so as to keep reflecting sunlight toward a predetermined target, compensating for the sun's apparent motion in the sky. They were used in solar power tower plants, in architecture to provide daylighting to atriums, and, well, that was mostly it. They were industrial. They were technical. They were perfect. I wasn't just going to put a mirror on my roof. That was amateur hour. A static mirror would only work for about 5 minutes before the sun's angle changed. No. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. I needed something motorized, something computer-controlled. "Sarah!" I shouted, more excited than I'd been in months. "I'm going to need your trigonometry." She pulled one headphone off. "My what? I haven't used trig since high school." "Well, break out the SOHCAHTOA, baby, 'cause we're about to calculate some solar angles." I showed her the screen. I showed her the Wikipedia page. I showed her a YouTube video of a guy in Arizona who had built a small one to power a solar cooker that had promptly melted a garden chair. Sarah watched the video, her face pale. "Mark, that chair, it's melting." "It's a plastic chair, Sarah. It's tacky, just like Brenda's gnomes. But look at the focus. Look at the precision. You want to build a heat ray on our roof to aim at Brenda's petunias." No, not a heat ray. That sounds so aggressive. I'm going to build a daylight intensification system, a solar generosity array. I'm going to give her the sun she asked for, directly. Sarah looked at me. She looked at the melted chair on the screen. She looked back at me. A slow, terrifying smile, a mirror image of my own, spread across her face. "Oh my God," she whispered. She'll have to close her blinds. In the middle of the afternoon. From the glare, off her lawn." "Exactly. It's brilliantly awful. I love it, but can we even do that? Like legally?" "That's the best part." I clicked over to another tab. I spent all of Sunday afternoon on the city's building code website. It's a real page-turner. You know what I found? What? Ordinance for 14B7, light pollution and glare. I read the whole thing. It specifically refers to artificial luminaries and nighttime illumination. As in, you can't have a 10,000-watt stadium light shining into your neighbor's bedroom at night. I leaned in, pointing at the screen. It says nothing, Sarah. Not one single word about reflecting natural sunlight during the day. "It's a loophole," Sarah said, her eyes wide with the beautiful, terrible realization. "It's a sunlight loophole." "It's not a loophole, it's a feature," I proclaimed. "It's not a light, it's just more sun," which is exactly what she complained about a lack of. "I'm not the villain here, I'm the solution. I'm a good neighbor." Sarah was silent for a long moment, just staring at the screen. "Okay," she said finally. "I'm in. But you are not building this yourself. I am not having a repeat of the bookshelf incident of 2019. You are hiring professionals." I deflated slightly. "But the guy in the video..." "The guy in the video melted his chair, Mark. We are hiring people who, have insurance. People who will not set our roof, or the neighborhood, on fire. Deal?" I considered it. She was right. Building it myself would be messy. Hiring professionals, on the other hand, that made it official. That made it serious. It added a layer of glorious, undeniable legitimacy to the whole, stupid, beautiful plan. "Deal," I said. "I'll make the calls Monday." My research wasn't over. It just changed focus. I was no longer a DIYer. I was a project manager. Search 3. Commercial heliostat installers USA. Search 4. Architectural daylighting solutions. Search 5. What is a glare easement? Turns out it's a thing. But you have to have one, and Brenda sure as hell didn't. I found a company, a sleek corporate website. Aperture Architectural Solutions. Their tagline was, "We control the sun." Yes, you do, I thought. And you're going to teach me how. Monday morning, 9:00 a.m. I was in my home office, coffee in hand, a new victorious brew, ready to make the call. Brenda's deadline for my decision had arrived, and my decision was escalate. My first few calls, however, were hilarious, confidence-shattering failures. I'd decided to start local, just to see what the normal contractors would say. Call 1. Johnson & Sons Roofing. A gravelly voice answered. Roofin'. Hi, yes, my name is Mark, I said, trying to sound professional. I'm in the market for a roofing solution, but not a traditional one. I'm looking for a reflective solution. A white roof, the man grunted. TPO, thermoplastic, good for energy savings, reflects the heat. No, not white, I said. I mean, reflective, as in shiny, as in a mirror. There was a long, heavy silence on the line. I heard what sounded like a sandwich being chewed. Sir, the man said finally, you want a disco ball on your shingles. Not a ball, no. More like panels, flat panels. Look, pal, we do shingles. We do metal. We do TPO. We don't do Studio 54. And I ain't warrantying that. You get a little hail, those panels are gonna crack. You gonna call me crying about your 7 years of bad luck? No, we're not doing it. Good luck. Click, 1 down. Call 2. Apex Solar Installers. This one sounded more promising. They, at least, understood the sun. A young, impossibly cheerful voice answered. It's a great day to save the planet with Apex Solar. This is Chad. How can I help you harness the power of the sun? Hi, Chad, I said. I do, in fact, want to harness the power of the sun, but probably not in the way you're used to. Oh, we love a challenge, man. Off-grid, complex roofline, we do it all. Okay, well, I don't want to absorb the sun. I want to project it. The manufactured cheer faltered. Bro. What? I want to take the sunlight that hits my roof, and I want to shoot it, over, into my neighbor's yard. Chad was quiet for a second. Dude. That's like a solar cannon. We don't sell that. What if, I pressed, we installed the panels backward? Sir, Mark, is it? Mark, if you install a solar panel backward, it's just a really, really expensive and not very shiny piece of glass on your roof. It's not gonna focus it. It's not a lens. I think you just invented something, bro, but we definitely don't install it. You should, patent that. Click. I was getting frustrated. My plan was brilliant, but the workforce just wasn't ready. I sighed and pulled up the website for Aperture Architectural Solutions. We control the sun. This was it. No more local roofers. No more solar bros. I was calling the professionals. A crisp female voice answered. Aperture Solutions, this is reception. Hi. Yes, I said, deepening my voice. I'd like to speak to a project manager about a new daylighting installation. I used their word. I was one of them. One moment, sir. I'll connect you to Gary. A moment of hold music, some kind of bland, classical light. Then a new voice. Professional. A little tired. Gary speaking. You have a daylighting project? Yes, Gary, I do, I said. My name is Mark. I have a unique residential challenge. I have a heavily shaded area, and I need to get full sun to it. Not a problem, Mark, Gary said, and I could hear him typing. We do this all the time for atriums, courtyards. We use a system of heliostats, usually roof-mounted, to track the sun and reflect it down into the target area. What's the square footage of the atrium? Well, I said, it's not an atrium. A courtyard? A garden? A garden, yes, exactly. A garden. Okay, and it's your garden? Here we go. The moment of truth. No, it's not my garden. It's my neighbor's garden. Gary's typing stopped. The silence that followed was different from the roofer's. It wasn't confusion. It was re-evaluation. Sir, Gary said, his voice slow and careful. You want to purchase and install a commercial-grade, computer-controlled heliostat array to shine sunlight onto your neighbor's lawn? Her petunias, specifically, I clarified. They're prize-winning. Her petunias? Yes, she's very concerned. She filed a formal complaint with me this weekend. My house is casting an aggressive shadow. From 2:04 p.m. to 4:18 p.m. She wants more sun. I'm just trying to be a helpful neighbor, Gary. I'm trying to solve her problem. Gary said nothing. I could hear him breathing. I think he might have put me on mute for a second to, I don't know, laugh or call his manager or just absorb the sheer, beautiful pettiness of the request. Gary, you there? I'm here, Mark, he said, his voice now different. He wasn't Gary the project manager anymore. He was Gary, the fascinated witness to human folly. Is this a prank? Is Brenda in the room with you? Are you punking me? I am 100% serious, Gary. I have a budget, and I have a problem. Well, Brenda has a problem that I believe only Aperture Architectural Solutions can solve. Your website says you control the sun. I need you to control it. Right onto that 8 by 12-foot flower bed. Gary let out a long, long sigh. It was the sigh of a man who has a mortgage, who has seen too much, and who has just realized that a Mark and his petunia problem commission check spends just as well as an atrium commission check. Mr. Johnson, he said, I think I need to come out for a site survey. When can you be here? I'm clearing my schedule. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Is that good? Tomorrow at 10 is perfect, Gary. I'll have the coffee ready. Gary, true to his word, arrived at 10 a.m. on the dot. He was a small, neat man in a pressed blue polo shirt with the Aperture logo on it. He was holding a very expensive-looking tablet. He did not look like a man who was here to enable my shenanigans. He looked like a high school physics teacher. Mark, he said, extending a hand. Gary, welcome. Come on in. No, he said, stopping on the porch. Let's just stay outside. I need to see the target zone and the installation site. I walked him to the side of my house. The property line between my place and Brenda's was marked by nothing but a few feet of grass. Brenda herself was, thankfully, not visible. Gary looked at my roof. He looked at Brenda's house. He pulled out a device that looked like a high-tech compass and stared at the sun. And the petunias are there, he said, pointing to the sad-looking flower bed. Right there, the 8 by 12 patch. Gary put his hands on his hips. He stared at my roof. He stared at the petunias. He stared at the sun. He did some math on his tablet. He shook his head, then did the math again. Okay, he said, turning to me. Look, we can do it. I don't know if we should, but we can. It's highly unusual. Unusual is what I'm paying for, Gary. We'd need a 4-panel array, he said, the professional in him taking over. 4, let's say 4 foot by 4 foot, high reflectivity panels. They'd be motorized on a dual-axis tracker. We'd network them, plug them into your Wi-Fi. We'd build you an app. An app, I whispered. It was more than I'd dreamed of. Yes, an app. You'd be able to define the target, set the illumination schedule. 2:04 p.m. to 4:18 p.m., you said? On the dot. The system would auto-track the sun, lock onto the GPS coordinates of that flower bed, and illuminate it. It's going to be bright, Mark. Very bright. Like 4 extra suns. Full, direct, concentrated sunlight. A glorious image filled my head. Gary, I said, leaning in. A question. Can we focus it? Like, really focus it? Make it one intense beam? Gary physically recoiled. He took a step back. Mark, I cannot, in good conscience, or more importantly, with any legal or insurance coverage, build you a death ray. A death ray? I laughed. Gary, perish the thought. I just want it to be efficient. It's already efficient, he said, clearly flustered. No, we can't focus it. We can make it a zone of intense illumination. We will defocus it slightly for safety, so it, doesn't set her mulch on fire. Oh, I said, a little disappointed. Well, safety first, I guess. Yes, Gary said, his composure returning. Safety first. It will be an 8 by 12 foot zone, exactly as you requested. He stared at the petunias. They're not going to like this, Mark. Full sun is one thing. This is surface of Mercury sun. You're going to kill those flowers. Gary, I said, putting a friendly hand on his shoulder. They're already suffering. I'm just putting them out of their misery. And more importantly, I'm honoring my neighbor's request. How soon can you start? Gary looked at me, looked at the house, looked back at his tablet. He sighed, a deep, profound sound of moral compromise. Let me get you a quote. I'll email it to you this afternoon. The scaffolding, the install team, we could probably be here by Thursday. Thursday is perfect, I said, smiling. It's going to be a bright weekend, Gary. Yeah, Gary muttered, already walking back to his hybrid sedan. It sure is. I've got to go. The quote will be, it will be a quote. I watched him drive away, a man who had just sold his soul for a residential heliostat contract. I felt fantastic. The email arrived at 4:32 p.m. The subject line was simply, quote, Johnson Residence Daylighting Project. The PDF was beautiful. It was professional, itemized, and expensive. My God, was it expensive. This was not a spite fence level of petty cash. This was new car that you don't get to drive money. I called Sarah into the office. She looked at the number at the bottom of the page. Her eyes went wide. She looked at me. For mirrors, she said. They're not mirrors, Sarah, I corrected her. They're a quad-panel, dual-axis, networked heliostat array. And it comes with an app. An app, she repeated. She looked at the quote again. She was quiet for a long time. I was worried she was going to pull the plug. This was our Vacation to Italy fund. Finally, she just nodded, a grim, satisfied look on her face. You know, I never really wanted to see Rome, anyway. It's probably full of shadows. Book it. I clicked accept on the digital quote so fast I nearly sprained a finger. Thursday morning, 8:00 a.m. A large, very official-looking truck, the kind that doesn't just show up for a simple gutter cleaning, pulled up to the curb. Aperture Architectural Solutions, it said on the side, in a sleek, no-nonsense font. A team of 3 men, all in matching blue polos like Gary's, got out and began unloading. Scaffolding. Metal poles. Wooden planks. It was a production. This, immediately, was like a bat signal for Brenda. Her front door creaked open, her head, topped with a live, laugh, love visor, poked out. She saw the truck. She saw the men. She saw the scaffolding. I was, of course, already on my porch, sipping my coffee, waiting. I gave her a little wave. She didn't wave back. She marched. Across her lawn, across the invisible property line, right up to the base of my porch. The crew, to their credit, completely ignored her and continued to assemble the metal structure with a clank, thud, clank that was music to my ears. "Mark," she barked. "Brenda," I replied cheerfully. "Lovely day for it, isn't it?" "What is this?" she demanded, gesturing to the men. "What is all this? This is a violation. You can't just build things." "It's just a little home improvement, Brenda. You know how it is. Spring cleaning, sprucing the place up." Her eyes scanned the scaffolding, which was now creeping up the side of my house toward the roof. She looked at the truck. She looked at me. And then, a look of pure, unadulterated hope dawned on her face. "Oh my God," she whispered, a hand flying to her chest. Are you doing it? Are you lowering the roof?" She genuinely looked happy, relieved, as if I had finally seen the light and agreed to her $150,000 community-friendly solution. I had to let her down gently. "Oh, Brenda," I said, chuckling. "No, goodness, no. That would be so drastic and so expensive. No, I'm not lowering the roof." Her face fell. The hope vanished, replaced by the familiar mask of sour suspicion. "Then, what is this? Are you moving the house?" "Also, no. Gosh, can you imagine? The permits alone." I took a sip of my coffee. "No, Brenda, I'm going with the other option." "What other option? I only gave you 2. "Well, you gave me 2 bad ones. No, I took your complaint to heart. I really sat with it. Not enough sun, you said. My petunias are suffering, you said. And I thought, Mark, you have to handle this. So I am." I pointed up, toward the roof where the team was now securing the main mounting brackets. "I'm addressing your sunlight complaint directly, Brenda." She stared at the scaffolding. She stared at the crew hauling up something in a big canvas-wrapped package. What does that mean?" she asked, her voice small. "It means," I said, giving her my biggest, most helpful neighbor smile, "that I'm giving you more sun. You're welcome." She just stood there. She had no file for this. Her clipboard of complaints was empty. Giving more sun. She was trying to process it. She was like a 1990s computer trying to load a 4K video. It just wasn't computing. This isn't approved. I'm calling the HOA." "Already did," I said brightly. "Sent them the permit. Roof-mounted fixtures. Totally approved. They just thought it was solar panels, and in a way, they are." "Solar!" She fumed. She sputtered. She realized she had no power here. The men were working. The scaffolding was built. The thing was on the roof. You'll be hearing from someone," she finally stammered, before pivoting and marching back to her house. The door slammed. A curtain twitched. I knew she was back there, phone in hand, probably filming. Good. Get the before shot. The installation took all day. It was beautiful. Gary wasn't kidding. These guys were professionals. They drilled into the roof trusses. They ran conduit. They mounted the 4 big silver panels, which were covered in protective film for now. It looked serious. It looked like a piece of a NASA satellite had fallen off and landed on my roof. It looked perfect. By 4:00 p.m., they were packing up. Gary himself had returned for the final sign-off. He found me on the porch, where I had been all day. "Okay, Mark," he said, handing me his tablet. We're done." It's magnificent, Gary," I said, looking up at the array. "It's something," he sighed. "Okay, the system is operational. It's networked to your Wi-Fi. Here's the app." He had me download it. Aperture OS. It was simple. A status screen. Offline. Targeting screen. A GPS map of my neighborhood with a red 8x12 rectangle already drawn over Brenda's lawn. And a schedule screen. 2:04 p.m., 4:18 p.m., already programmed. "Now this is important," Gary said, pointing to the screen. "This is manual override. You can nudge the array, left, right, up, down." "Oh," I said, "for fine-tuning." "For whatever," Gary said, rubbing his temples. "And this big red button at the bottom?" "Yeah. That's the panic button. Safe mode. It shuts everything down and points the mirrors straight up, at the sky. If, things get too helpful, you just press the red button." "Got it. A panic button. For sun." "Mark," Gary said, looking me dead in the eye. "I've been with Aperture for 15 years. I've daylit museums in Dubai. I've put heliostats on biodomes in Sweden. This is, without a doubt, the single most suburban thing I have ever done. I have a reputation. My team has a reputation. Please." He hesitated, looking for the right word. "Just be cool." "Gary," I said, putting my arm around him. "You are a true professional, a purveyor of light, a bringer of botanical justice." "Thank you." "Yeah, well," he grumbled, shrugging off my arm. "The final bill will be in your inbox. And Mark? Your neighbor? She's gonna need sunglasses. And maybe a fire extinguisher." "Gary!" "I'm kidding. Mostly. The safety defocus is engaged. It probably won't set her mulch on fire. Probably." He didn't shake my hand. He just got in his car and drove away, a man fleeing the scene of his own greatest triumph. I looked at the app. I looked at the roof. I looked at the clock. 4:10 p.m. Just 8 minutes. 8 minutes until 4:18 p.m. "Sarah!" I yelled into the house. "It's almost time." "I'm busy," she yelled back. "But it's just 8 minutes." "The schedule doesn't start until tomorrow at 2:04 p.m., you psycho. Let them anticipate." She was right. Oh, she was so right. The anticipation was delicious. The next day, Friday, was the longest day of my life. I worked from home, which meant I sat at my desk, my laptop open, while I stared at the app on my phone, which in turn was on a split screen with my home security camera feed, which was aimed right at Brenda's petunia bed. 1:00 p.m. All quiet. 1:30 p.m. Brenda's ancient cat, Mr. Fluffles, waddled across the lawn. Not the target. 2:00 p.m. My heart was pounding. 2:03 p.m. I had the app open. My thumb hovered over the System Offline button. 2:03:50 p.m. Sarah came and stood next to me, a bowl of popcorn in her hands. "You're a sick, sick man," she whispered, popping a kernel in her mouth. 2:03:55 p.m. "God, I love you," she added. 2:04 p.m. "Engage," I whispered. I tapped the button. It turned green. System. Active. From the roof, there was a sound. A low, electronic whirr. It was the sound of 4 high-torque motors, in perfect, networked synchronicity, tilting the panels. They moved like giant metallic flowers, turning, tracking, locking. And then, light. From our window, we couldn't see the beam, but we could see the effect. Brenda's sad, droopy petunia bed vanished. It was replaced by a rectangle of pure, unadulterated, biblical light. It was glorious. The grass around it was a normal, pleasant green. The 8x12 rectangle, however, was no longer green. It was nuclear. It was photorealistic rendering of heaven green. We waited. From next door, we heard a faint, "What in the—" A blind snapped shut. Then, a moment later, a different window. A different blind. Jesus H. Christ! A window slammed. Then, silence. "Well," Sarah said, grabbing more popcorn. That's a lot of sun." "I'm just being helpful," I said, my voice trembling with giddy, righteous adrenaline. We waited. 10 minutes. 20. At 2:34 p.m., it happened. The blessed, beautiful, inevitable sight, a police cruiser, rolling slowly down our street. It pulled up, right in front of Brenda's house. Brenda flew out her front door. We couldn't hear her, but we could see her. She was gesturing. She was pointing at her yard. She was pointing at our roof. She was waving her arms. 2 officers got out of the car. One was older, looked like he'd seen it all, and had a mustache that had probably been in service since the 80s. Let's call him Officer Grizzled. The other was young, fit, and looked confused. Officer Rookie. They listened to Brenda for a solid 5 minutes. Officer Grizzled just nodded. Officer Rookie kept looking at our roof, then back at Brenda, then at our roof. Finally, Officer Grizzled sighed, put a hand on Brenda's shoulder as if to say, "Stay here, you lunatic," and they both started walking across the lawn. Our lawn. "They're here," I said, like a kid on Christmas. "Be cool," Sarah warned. "Don't be you." The doorbell rang. A nice, firm, "We are the law" knock. I opened it, composing my face into a mask of mild, neighborly concern. "Officers, is everything okay? Is Brenda all right?" Officer Grizzled stared at me. His mustache twitched. "Sir, are you Mark Johnson?" "I am. Is there a problem?" "Sir," he said, consulting his notepad, "we received a rather strange call from your neighbor, Brenda." "Oh no," I said with faux worry. "What's wrong?" Officer Rookie, who had been silent, finally spoke. "Sir, she claims you're blinding her with space weapons." I had to physically bite my cheek to keep from laughing. "Space weapons? Oh my goodness, no! Officers, please!" I chuckled, as one sane person to another. "Those aren't space weapons. Good heavens, those are just my new daylighting fixtures." "Your daylighting fixtures," Officer Grizzled repeated, deadpan. "Yes, See, my neighbor, Brenda, she came to me just last weekend with a very serious, very formal complaint. I leaned in, as if sharing a secret. My house was casting a shadow on her lawn. Officer Grizzled's mustache twitched again. Officer Rookie was definitely trying not to smile. A shadow, Grizzled said. She filed a complaint about a shadow. A 2-hour and 14-minute shadow, to be precise, I said, tapping my temple. From 2:04 to 4:18 p.m. She was very upset. Her petunias were suffering. She said, and I quote, she needed more sun. She demanded I handle it. I spread my hands, the picture of magnanimity. So I handled it. I'm a good neighbor. I got her more sun. It was very expensive, I don't mind telling you. The two cops just stared at me. What? Rookie said. Come on, I said. I'll show you. The system is active right now. I led them around the side of the house. We stood on the edge of my property. Now, I said, you're going to want to squint, or probably just put on your sunglasses. They both, bless them, put on their aviators. Okay, look at her flower bed. They looked. It was bright. Now, officer, I said to Grizzled, is that, or is that not, a lot of sun? Holy, Rookie whispered. That is definitely a lot of sun. Sir, Grizzled said, rubbing the bridge of his nose, right above his shades. Is this legal? Officer, I'd be insulted if I thought you hadn't noticed I'm a law-abiding citizen, I said humbly. I checked the city code personally, section 14B7, light pollution and glare. It only pertains to artificial luminaries at night. This is natural light. During the day. Is it illegal to reflect the sun, officer? I mean, windows do it. Car bumpers do it. Ponds do it. I'm just doing it better. Officer Grizzled was silent. He was looking at the app on my phone. Can you turn it off? Of course. I tapped the big red button. Safe mode. Engaged. Whirr. The mirrors on the roof tilted up. The light vanished, like a switch had been thrown. The petunia bed returned to its normal, sad, shady self. The world seemed duller. The two cops took off their sunglasses. They looked at the now shady spot. They looked at the mirrors on my roof. They looked at me. Officer Grizzled sighed. A deep, soulful sigh. Wait here. He walked back across the lawn, all the way to Brenda's porch. Officer Rookie stayed with me. So, Rookie said, trying to be casual. A heliostat, huh? How much, bandwidth does that take? Not much, I said. It's all on the cloud. We watched as Officer Grizzled talked to Brenda. Brenda was vibrating. She was pointing. She was stomping her foot. Officer Grizzled just stood there. He was shaking his head. A lot. He pointed at her house. He pointed at my house. He pointed at the sky. Finally, after what felt like a glorious, victorious eternity, Brenda threw her hands up in the air and stormed back inside, slamming her door so hard I'm pretty sure a window rattled. Officer Grizzled trudged back. His shoulders slumped. He stopped in front of me. He put his sunglasses back in his shirt pocket. Sir, he said. Officer, I replied. You're an ass. Officer, I said, feigning shock. But, he continued, holding up a hand, you're a legal ass. As far as I can tell, you haven't broken a single law. It is weird. It is incredibly petty. I'm almost impressed. But it is not illegal. He put his notepad away. She says her garden gnomes are melting. I looked over. He was right. A small plastic gnome, the one with the fishing rod, his little red hat, was drooping. Officer, that gnome was plastic. It was tacky. Honestly, I'm doing the neighborhood a favor. I'm improving the property values. Officer Grizzled just stared at me. He looked at his partner. Wojo, let's go. We're done here. But the gnomes? Wojo started. We are not taking a melting gnome report, son. Let's go. He turned back to me one last time. Sir, just try to be neighborly. Officer, I said, putting my hand on my heart. That is all I have ever been. He shook his head, a tiny, almost laugh escaping his lips. He muttered something into his radio that sounded a lot like, "Situation resolved. No crime, just suburbia." And they left. I went back inside. Sarah was on the floor. She was laughing so hard. "Space weapons!" she wheezed. "Her gnome is melting!" I just smiled and opened the app. 4:18 p.m. The schedule was complete. The system went offline. Well, I said, round 1 is complete. Same time tomorrow? Oh yeah, Sarah said, wiping a tear from her eye. Same sun time, same sun channel. The next week was a new, glorious routine. Life was divided into 2 parts. Before 2:04 p.m. and after 2:04 p.m. Every day, like the world's most obnoxious, targeted Swiss clock, the whir would start, and the zone of intense illumination would engage. Brenda, I'll give her credit, did not give up. She adapted. Day 2, Saturday, the Umbrella War. At 2:00 p.m., she was out there. She had a new weapon, a giant rainbow-colored beach umbrella, the kind you see at a tacky seaside resort. She stabbed it into the ground, right in the middle of her petunia bed. She unfolded a lawn chair, sat under the umbrella, crossed her arms, and smirked. She was smirking at my house. Oh, Brenda, I thought, watching from the window. You poor, sweet, simple fool. 2:04 p.m. Whirr, the light hit the umbrella. It was a lot of light. The rainbow colors became neon. She really thought that would work, Sarah said, munching on a sandwich. She didn't account for the app, I said. I pulled up the manual override screen. Let's see, I mused. The target lock is centered, but the bed is 8 by 12. The umbrella is only 6 feet wide. She's left her flanks exposed. I tapped the nudge button. Targeting array. Sector 1, nudge 2 degrees east. On the roof, a small whir. In Brenda's yard, the rectangle of light slid. It moved. Perfectly, off the umbrella and onto the eastern half of the petunia bed. Brenda's smirk vanished. She shrieked. She scrambled out of her chair, grabbed the umbrella, and frantically tried to stab it back into the ground to cover the new bright spot. Oh, she's a left-sider now, is she? I said. Okay. Whirr. I nudged the beam back to the west. She screamed in frustration. She looked like a cartoon character trying to plug 10 holes in a dam. She'd move the umbrella left. I'd move the light right. She'd move it right. I'd move it left. she'd try to center it, and I'd split the beam, sending 2 panels worth of light to one side and 2 to the other, creating 2 hot spots on either side of her. "Mark," Sarah choked, spitting out her water. You're hurting her." After 20 minutes of this, Brenda threw the umbrella on the ground, gave my house a spectacular 2-fingered salute, and stormed inside. I centered the beam back on the now umbrella-less flower bed. Victory. Mark. Day 3. Sunday. The tarp incident. She was back, this time with a large blue plastic tarp. She simply covered the entire flower bed. "Huh," Sarah said. "Smart." "Is it?" I said. "Is it really? She complained her flowers weren't getting enough sun. Now, she's giving them 0 sun. And she's just left a giant blue plastic rectangle on her lawn, which I'm pretty sure is an HOA violation." I left the system on. The tarp got shiny and hot. I could see the heat shimmering off it. Mr. Fluffles, her cat, came over to investigate, took 1 step on it, hissed, and rocketed back onto the porch. By 4:18 p.m., the tarp had changed. The corners were curly. It was definitely a little melted. Day 4, Monday. The city inspector. A new knock. Not cops this time. A man with a different clipboard. A man in a beige polo with a City of logo on it. This was Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson looked tired. "Mr. Mark Johnson?" "That's me." "I'm Mr. Henderson, City Code Enforcement. I've received a complaint." He sighed, looking at his clipboard as if he couldn't believe what it said. "A complaint about unpermitted roof structures, light trespass, and malicious solar activity." "Malicious solar activity?" I said. "Wow, she's getting creative. Come on in, Mr. Henderson." "No, No, please," I insisted. I had a file ready. I'd been waiting for him. I sat him at my kitchen table. I put a folder in front of him. "Okay, Mr. Henderson," I said. "Let's go through this. Page 1. There's the permit filed by Aperture Architectural Solutions. Roof-mounted fixtures. Fully approved and signed off by your office, actually. Looks like a Janice signed it. Good for her." Henderson's eyes widened. He'd assumed this was a DIY death ray. The permit changed things. "Page 2, I continued. "Here's the municipal code on light trespass. Again, as I explained to the very understanding officers on Friday, it only applies to artificial light at night. This, as I'm sure your solar complaint implies, is natural light. During the day, I'm basically eco-friendly, Mr. Henderson." "But malicious," he stammered. "Malicious?" I said, putting on my wounded face. "Is it malicious to solve a problem? My neighbor complained loudly that her flowers needed more sun. I, at great personal expense, provided it. I'm a Gantt giver, Mr. Henderson, a philanthropist of photons." Mr. Henderson just stared at me. He closed the folder. He stood up. "Sir, I need to see the structure." "Of course." We went outside. It was 1:50 p.m. "You're in for a treat," I said. "The show starts in about 14 minutes." He stood on my lawn, just watching my roof. He looked at Brenda's house. She was, of course, filming us from her window. 2:04 p.m. Whirr! The light. Henderson was a professional. He didn't flinch. He just put on his sunglasses. He watched the beam hit the now uncovered, scorched tarp remains removed, flower bed. He walked over to Brenda's lawn. He looked at the melted gnome. He looked at the petunias. Oh, the petunias. I hadn't described the petunias. They were not happy. Crispy was no longer the word. They'd gone beyond crispy. They'd achieved fossilized. They were petunia jerky. The grass in the 8x12 rectangle wasn't yellow. It was white. It had been photo-bleached. Mr. Henderson came back. He took off his sunglasses. He just looked at me. "Sir," he said, "it's the ugliest, most obnoxious, most passive-aggressive, brilliant piece of engineering I have ever seen in my 20 years of code enforcement." He pulled out a pen. He clicked it. He signed a form on his clipboard. "It's to code. The permit is valid. The light is natural." He handed me a copy. Have a good day, Mr. Johnson. And don't focus it, or whatever." He walked away, a beaten man. Brenda, who had clearly been watching from her window, must have seen him sign the paper. She must have seen him leave. She had lost. The city was not on her side. The police were not on her side. She was defeated. The final knock came an hour later. It wasn't a subpoena knock. It was a dead man walking knock. I opened the door. It was Brenda. She wasn't angry. She wasn't holding a clipboard. She just looked broken. "Mark," she whispered. Her voice was hoarse. "Brenda." "Please," she said. "Just, please, turn it off." "Turn what off, Brenda?" I asked, all innocence. The sun? I can't do that. I'm just a man." "The machine," she said, her eyes welling with tears. It's too much sun. You've killed them. They're all dead. My gnome, his face is gone." I feigned a look of deep, deep confusion. I put my hand to my chin. "Brenda, I'm so confused. I'm getting mixed messages from you. First, there was a shadow, and that was bad. So I handled it. I got rid of the shadow. I gave you sun, and now you're saying the sun is bad." I shook my head sadly. I can't keep up with your landscaping needs, Brenda. I'm a simple man. I can't win." Do you want the shadow back? Is that what you're saying?" She sputtered. She had no words. She was caught in a logic trap of my own beautiful, stupid design. She said, You're awful." "No, Brenda," I said, my voice kind, my smile not. "I'm thorough. There's a difference." She just deflated. She turned, not with a march, but with a slump, and walked back to her brightly lit property. I closed the door. I looked at Sarah, who was sitting on the stairs, listening to the whole thing. "Check," I said. "And, mate," she replied. That evening, I felt a new feeling. It wasn't just the giddy thrill of victory. It was magnanimity. I, Mark Johnson, dispenser of sunlight, could also be a dispenser of mercy. I opened the Aperture OS app. The schedule was still set for 2:04 p.m. the next day. I looked at the Schedule tab. I looked at the big red Safe Mode panic button. "You know," I said to Sarah, who was reading on the couch, I'm I'm thinking of powering it down. She looked up, a little surprised. Really? But what about the sport of it all? The sport is over, honey, I said, a little sadly. The lion has, well, the Karen has surrendered. To continue the hunt would be unseemly. And her lawn is a disaster, Sarah added, peering out the window. That 8x12 patch, it looks like you tried to Xerox the sun and the paper jammed. It's just a white rectangle of death. My work here is done, I said, with a sigh of finality. I tapped the schedule button, and I deleted the 2:04 p.m. 4:18 p.m. entry. Then, just for good measure, I hit the big red Safe Mode button. The app confirmed. System disarmed. Panels in safe. Skyward position. The next day, 2:04 p.m. came and went. There was no whir. There was no light. My house just cast a shadow. A normal, boring, everyday shadow. The silence from next door was profound. The neighborhood was quiet. Too quiet. Brenda, who was normally a pottering in the garden and judging the mailman fixture, was gone. She didn't come out. Her blinds stayed down. Not just the ones facing the zone, but all of them. My glorious high-tech solar generosity array sat on the roof, silent, pointing at the sky, a $20,000 monument to a problem that no longer existed. Weeks passed. The white, bleached patch of grass on Brenda's lawn slowly started to not recover. It just stayed white. It was a scar, a perfect 8x12 rectangle of shame. Winter came. The mirrors got a little dusty. We kind of forgot they were up there. Spring arrived. The snow melted. And then, one glorious, sunny April morning, it appeared. It was beautiful. It was red, white, and blue. It was a for sale sign. On Brenda's lawn, I didn't cheer, I didn't high-five Sarah, I just stood at the window. I nodded. Once, slowly. The system had worked. The problem had been handled. That night, Sarah and I sat on the back porch. It was one of those perfect spring evenings. The for sale sign was just a dark shadow, but we knew it was there. You know, Sarah said, sipping a glass of wine, in a weird, twisted, toxic way, I'm gonna miss her. I'm not, I said, taking a sip of my beer. I'm not going to miss her, but I'll miss the potential, the energy. The solar energy? She smirked. Exactly. I looked up at the roof, where the 4 panels were dark silhouettes against the twilight. I'm going to miss having a panic button for sun. What are we going to do with those things? She asked. I mean, seriously, we can't just leave them. What are the new neighbors going to think? I don't know. Maybe they're gardeners? Gary called, by the way, she said. Oh yeah? How's my old friend Gary? He wanted to know if we wanted to sign up for the Sun Be Gone package, a 10-year service and maintenance warranty, and, I think, a removal plan. I thought about it. I thought about the new neighbors, a new family, a new challenge, a new complaint. Maybe they'd play loud music? Maybe their dog would be a barker? Tell him, no, I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. Tell him, we want to keep the warranty. You never know. Sarah rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. You're a menace, Mark Johnson. No, Sarah, I said, raising my beer to the dark, silent panels on my roof. I'm a problem solver. A very thorough problem solver. I took a sip. The air was cool. The neighborhood was quiet. And on my roof, my 4 silver friends were sleeping. But they weren't just mirrors. They were a promise. A promise that, in this neighborhood, no complaint, no matter how small, no matter how stupid, would ever go unaddressed. Yeah, I said to myself, looking at the for sale sign. A problem solver.